Hi, I'm John Iwata, former IBM Chief Brand Officer and now with Yale University. And I'm here with Tony Cervone, who's the head of communications for GM. And we're here at the Page Society Spring Seminar in New York City. And just minutes ago, I got through having a chat with Tony about everything he's doing to help GM through its historic transformation. And the topic that we're discussing here is CCOs and how they're becoming different, how they're transforming themselves and their functions. And so many of the things that we've explored are illustrated in Tony's story and what he and his team are doing right now at GM. We had an hour conversation, and this is about 10 minutes of a 10-minute version of it. So maybe to help not only make it concise, but to illustrate how it coheres into a system or an approach for you. You've described it to me, Tony, as addressing the why, the what, and the how in the context of GM's transformation. So let me just turn it over to you to tell us about that.
Thanks, John. So we're going to condense this really quickly. I'll speak very fast. When we talk about thought leadership work that you guys are doing in Page and that we're rolling out as kind of a roadmap for people, we talk about the societal impacts, the brand, and then culture. And so really when I look at that, that's the why, the what, and the how. And the why is what are you doing as a company? What is the essence of what you're doing that's authentic, that is going to provide some benefit to society? We know people, you referenced it in your opening talk about how employees are coming in and they want to change the world. Okay, they do. A lot of us have wanted to change the world for a long time, but the why is, what is it that you can authentically do to impact society? The what is, in my work, has been the GM brand work that we've been doing, which is really defining, okay, what is it about GM that is the essence of the brand, and what is it that we can articulate about that essence? So as you know in your brand work, you develop what the essence is. That doesn't become your tagline, but what is it that you do start to talk about? And for us, it's zero crashes, zero emissions, zero congestion. It's what we can authentically go do. And we know that those are unintended consequences of 100-year plus business that's grown massively to 90 million vehicles being sold every year on the roads, and so the amount of impact that could have, we need to influence and change that. And we need to do it not just because it's the right thing to do, but we need to do it because that disruption is coming, and we can help people, and we can do this authentically. The how then is the culture that you want to do. And for us, Mary Barr is our CEO, and she talks about culture as this big black box, but it's really about what behaviors do you need to have and what is it and how do you attack it. So we go right into the behaviors themselves and try and drive the behaviors that are going to impact and work it all the way through the organization. Because as you know, brand is not CI, it's not just a tagline, it is what is the core, what are you living up to? And so the only way to live up to something culturally is how do you behave day in and day out. So that's the Cliff Notes version of what we talked about for an hour.
I know, and I have so many follow-ups again, as we did it a few minutes ago. But for some of our colleagues out there, they're like, did I hear correctly Tony talk about brand? And one of the things we've done in the past year is we've gone out and talked to more than 100 CCOs as part of our thought leadership work about the future of the CCO. Tony, we talked to twice. Was the growing number of CCOs like Tony who have formal responsibility for brand. In fact, at the opening session, I asked a room full of 300 people, raise your hand if you have responsibility for corporate brand. How many people raised their hand?
Yeah, I don't know. I was in the front row, so
about 80%. So here we have CCOs with brand responsibility. You've shared with us coming up, you revisited mission, purpose, values, converted that into this rallying strategic vision, 000. What's next as you think about your brand and what you can do with it?
I think the first thing is the collaboration that's required through the organization. So it is, while I may have responsibility for measuring it and making sure that we're hitting the 4 key audiences, we define the GM brand very differently than a lot of companies because we have consumer-facing brands that, frankly, people deal with them as if they're the company. The GM brand really is about what are employees thinking, how do you attract tomorrow's employees, policymakers around, not only in the U.S. and statewide and federal, but around the globe, and then investors. And the investment community wants to know what General Motors is doing. So we're putting forth the metrics to analyze what part of our messaging is resonating, how is it resonating. And as you know, it's not just about what you output, it's about what you get back. I mean, the definition of communications is a 360-degree model. I think we might have forgotten that over the years, where we just disseminate into a noise, echo chamber. But getting that feedback and creating the mechanisms that you can get that feedback, not only what are you learning from them, but then they have that conversation. And so we have great alignment through the organization, through all of Mary's executive team, as we're all owning this and we're going to live this, we're going to do it. We measure that. We need to change from a communication standpoint. We need to become much more sophisticated and comfortable with digital metrics and digital tools that we have today.
Yes.
That frankly, we've been asking for forever. We've been asking, how do we measure forever? And now we got it in front of us, and we're like, now we got to use it. So that's all transformational, and I think we call it Comtech. Comtech, which is
borrowed from Martech.
Yeah, right.
How marketing has transformed through the use of digital and data. And as you're doing, and some others are doing, pushing into that, not only for storytelling, which everyone's been doing, storytelling using digital content,
right,
going direct using social channels and your own website, but now really engaging. You said it well a few minutes ago, you said it just now. Communications historically, dissemination or communicating or publishing or positioning, to engaging, and engaging with purpose. I have another question for you. We're used to analysis of reputation, analysis of perception, analysis of opinion. You talk a lot about analysis of gaps.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, you get this feedback and you know what you're trying to get done. But then you need to go on a listening tour and say, what is it that where we're at? And you need to do gap analysis and figure out, okay, what's resonating, what's not resonating, but what is authentic and believable? How can people grab onto this? What can motivate them to want to engage with your brand? And so, it's different by audience for sure, but it's incredibly freeing for an engineer to come in to know that they're going to contribute not to polluting the world, but to protecting the world. And how does that fit into what they do day in and day out? If we talk about, making people safe, and autonomous vehicles is a big deal, and we're developing those. But it's not just developing autonomous vehicles. Today, you have cruise control that modulates your speed in front of you and stops you if there's somebody stopped to prevent a crash. Mm-hmm. You have lane assistance systems that stay in lane, and you have warning systems on your mirrors typically that say somebody's next to you in your blind spot. All these things are adding up to where we're going. And when you articulate how much contribution each person has, it's amazingly freeing to say, okay, I can do more. And I think I said in the talk, it's moving from motivating to inspiring. Mm-hmm. And if you do the brand work well, I can motivate you to, if you want to do 50 push-ups, I can motivate you to do a couple more.
I'm not
if
sure
you're
you
inspired,
can.
well,
right.
You and I probably can. Okay, let's start with 10. No, but you can motivate. Push, go. We've all been in the gym, right? Go, do
Yes.
one more. But if you're inspired, you're trying to do 60, 70. You're trying to get better. You're trying to lose weight. What is it you're trying to do? And that inspiration is what comes on. That's what brands do when you do them well, when they become authentic.
In our remaining 90 seconds or so, I have a question about your team and the skills.
Yep.
I didn't ask you this on stage, but you and I had many conversations in the past 6 months. So if you look at your team, what skills do you need less of over time? I don't want to make anyone on your team nervous, but if you think skills of value, but probably less of, and skills that you need more of over time.
Wow, I don't know that we need less of. What we need less of is the traditional way of doing some things. I still need great writers who can story tell. And what's the old saying, I would have done it shorter if I had more time, kind of thing. We still need the ability to do that, but I probably don't need as many that are going to write a press release because nobody really cares about those anymore. What I need a lot more of, though, is understanding and being a learning environment where people know that tomorrow's going to be different than today. And we're starting to look around that corner to figure out what that is because I can't predict what it is. And so people coming in and having that hunger and thirst to not only learn what's going on in the auto business and what's going on in the transformation of the auto business, but what's going on in the communications business and what is effective and what's going to be effective tomorrow. And I think oftentimes, John, you and I have talked about this, so we kind of teach the tactics and we get hung up on a tactic, and then once we got the tactic we think we've won. that tactic's good today, but it's probably not going to
Yeah.
be good 2 years from now. So
Yeah.
what is it that we're going to do? And I constantly am talking about this intellectual curiosity and emotional curiosity that we have. And those two things, if we bottle that and do that, people are going to go crazy. It's going to be great.
Well, Tony, you're very generous to share what you're doing with me, with our colleagues here at Spring Seminar, and again here with this broadcast. And 000, I really do hope for all of our sakes that it becomes a reality.
No,
Thanks again.
We're going to get there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.